It's funny that you think that he's taking a dig. Do you not think that when an 82-year-old man is arrested for posting something on Facebook, that is not a form of censorship?
Well, it depends what he posts, doesn't it? Depends if it's legal.
Well,
what did that 82-year-old man post?
Well,
There are moments in political media where the mask just slips, where someone who's built a career defending the indefensible finally gets asked a question they simply cannot answer. And what you're about to watch is exactly one of those moments. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because today we're looking at a former Trump advisor, someone who was paid, presumably quite well, to sit in rooms and shape the messaging of an entire administration completely and utterly falling apart. Not because of some gotcha trap, not because of some aggressive interrogation, but because of one simple, calm, perfectly reasonable question that she had absolutely no answer for. This is the kind of clip that speaks for itself. So stick around, watch it play out in full, and I'll give you my breakdown of exactly what went wrong for her at the end.
It's funny that you think that he's taking a dig. Do you not think that when an 82-year-old man is arrested for posting something on Facebook, that is not a form of censorship?
Well, it depends what he posts, doesn't it? Depends if it's legal.
Well,
what did that 82-year-old man post?
Well, let's back up a minute here. If we are starting to scrutinize everything that someone says, if we're arresting them because it is hate speech.
What is that? You mentioned a specific case there. What is it this 82-year-old was arrested for?
Honestly, I can't remember, but what I do remember...
You're telling me that it's outrageous that an 82-year-old man was...
Back up a minute.
No, sorry, this is important because you've just said this is an example of free speech under threat in the UK, but you can't tell me what he was arrested for.
I don't remember the exact...
So why are you bringing it up then?
I brought it up as an example that if we are scrutinizing what an 82-year-old man posts on Facebook...
But you can't assess that without knowing what he said, can you?
Well, you know what? Let's just say I brought up a wrong example because I don't have the context of it.
Could it possibly be
now?
Because it's all a load of nonsense and free speech isn't under threat in the UK at all, which I think you've just demonstrated respectfully?
You know what? I've been there I've lived in the UK for 24 years. And yes, I do believe that censorship, it started with political correctness.
Right.
And as political correctness moved from accusing people of microaggressions and then people getting triggered over what somebody said, it has been a form of putting a speech straitjacket on people.
So what can't you say in the UK right now without being arrested that you think people should have the right to say?
You know what? That's a very good question.
It is. Thank you.
It is. I can't answer that question, and I can't give you an example exactly. But see, what I find interesting.
Sorry, Jane. You've given me an example of free speech being under threat. You can't tell me what the person said.
Well,
I've asked you for one single thing that you can't say in the UK without fear of being arrested, and you can't think of anything. It's because Britain still is a country, compared to the United States, by the way, where free speech absolutely exists and always will.
Well, we both see it differently then.
But you can't give me any single point of evidence whatsoever to back up your idea.
Why don't you give me an example of how free speech still exists and censorship is not there?
Because you don't get arrested by the police for saying anything that isn't incitement or hate speech in this country. People are free to express their opinions. People are free to give their views. We do not have a police state in this country, unlike, I might say, the way that the United States is going under Donald Trump.
Well, that's interesting because it's not going that way with Donald Trump. It was going that way, and it's now reversing itself.
Right. So banning journalists from the White House because you don't like what they've written, demanding the impeachment of judges because you don't like what they've ruled, sacking government officials because they've dared to criticise you at any point in recent years, defunding universities because they're not doing what you do, threatening law firms if they don't toe the party line, defunding media organisations that you think are against you, arresting students because of what they've written on social media, and ramping up checks of people entering the UK to check they haven't posted anything on Facebook that you don't like, doesn't amount to any sort of attack on free speech.
That's really twisting things without the specific examples. You're giving you're giving examples the same way I gave the example.
But you didn't give any examples, and I've just given you 10.
No, you've just given me a very biased perspective.
Bias is facts. All of those things have happened. Which of those haven't happened? Have journalists been banned from the White House under the Trump administration?
Have journalists been banned, or have they brought in alternative media that presents a different
I'm not talking about
angle?
Have journalists from organisations like the Associated Press been banned by the White House, yes or no?
Yes, they have.
Right. Have judges been threatened with impeachment because the White House doesn't like their rulings? Yes or no?
Let's not do it that way. Let's go back to that. And yes. Why were they? Why were they banned?
But so we accept. Right? Are we accepting that all the things I just suggested have happened?
If you don't let me finish, then we can't really have a conversation here because you've got a very biased perspective
I'm not
here,
biased at all.
very angle.
I'm giving you facts, and I'm just asking whether you recognise that those things are true.
No. You know what? It's so interesting. Did we not have a bunch of fake news here? And in the U.S., we did. And why? Why did we have fake news? Because it was biased and it was wrong. And so that is one of the reasons. You're listing 10 things and cutting me off. But then why was the Associated Press no longer welcome? Because they gave fake news that has been proven. But
Jen, you coming on the national radio station here on LBC and saying an 82-year-old man being arrested is an attack on free speech without having a clue what he's actually said is not fake news at all.
It's not. It's not that I haven't had a clue. I can't remember the specifics.
Right.
But the fact that.
But how can you know it's an attack on free speech if you can't remember what he'd actually said?
Well, it's very interesting because you started this off by saying J.D. Vance had a dig. And so we don't get to have an intelligent discussion about whether there really is censorship going on, if people are afraid to speak out. But
he has had a dig, and that's his own language. He said previously when he talked about the UK...
No, you called it a dig.
And here's the part that really gets me. This isn't even the first time. This is the second time this guest, Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes, a former Trump advisor, has sat down for an interview defending the administration and simply collapsed under the weight of her own argument. Let's be fair. This woman has doctor in front of her name. She advised a sitting president. You'd think if she's going on UK national radio to claim free speech is under attack, she'd have one solid example ready. Just one. But when the pushback came, there was nothing there. No substance. Just silence dressed up as deflection. And that's what makes this so telling. This all kicked off after J.D. Vance sat across from David Lammy and lectured Britain about free speech, as if the UK is the one sliding into authoritarianism. But if you're looking for a country where free expression is under sustained, documented pressure right now, it isn't Britain. It's the United States. The reporter in this clip laid it out point by point. Critics and lawyers sanctioned in court, universities threatened over funding, journalists restricted from the White House, certain words reportedly flagged in federal communications, public critics facing pressure campaigns, protests met with crackdowns rather than protection. Are all of those uncontested facts? That's for you to weigh up. But when Halper-Hayes was asked what exactly J.D. Vance meant, she had nothing. No concrete case, just a vague feeling, with zero substance behind it. And that's the pattern, isn't it? big dramatic claims until someone asks for a real example and the whole thing crumbles. Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a like. It genuinely helps. I'll see you in the next one.